of the main stories today, President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that while our country still faces various problems, proper strides are being made. He said people who say that there is no hope are wrong. He was responding, of course, to the debate about his opening of Parliament address. Strong words for Julius Malema, as you saw a few moments ago. Professor Sethulego Matebesi is Professor of Sociology at the University of the Free State and a political analyst. Professor, good afternoon to you and good to chat to you this Monday afternoon. I mean, if you look at the President's speech, he seemed to take great care to quote the leaders of almost all the parties in his coalition. Now, is that just a real reflection of the coalition government at work, or is it just a nice touch, a rhetorical flourish for a speech?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, for me, it almost sounded like a continuation of the president's speech on Thursday evening. Because most of the issues that he touched on, it's some of the main challenges that South Africa face here, the challenge of unemployment, gender-based violence. And for the very first time, I have noted that the president have directly responded to one of the leaders of the opposition, Julius Malema, who I strongly believe has been a thorn in the flesh of the president in the past, for him to respond after 2 years. I mean, where, according to him, Malema actually directly scolded him. So that in itself tells you that we are indeed in a completely different political landscape, and the president perhaps feel emboldened, and that's why the direct response, if you listen to the latter part of his speech, direct response to Malema's attacks on him.
That, I mean, it was remarkable in a way because, as you say, the president doesn't respond to criticism often, and this was quite personal in a way between him and Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF. What do you think emboldens him? Is it the fact that, you know, he now leads a government that has that really comes to sort of 75% of the vote? Something almost completely unexpected from where we were just 3 months ago.
Yeah, well, I strongly believe it's also a sense of I've got a backing of opposition parties. And you've heard how some of these opposition parties that in the past would have had to sing a completely different tune have now sang the praises of the so-called government of national unity. And once you've got that support and that backing, perhaps the president feels more and also, supported. And that is surprising because, I mean, in the past, he had the backing of the African National Congress. But I strongly believe that he now believes that with the backing of the opposition, he can now take on those who in the past has been, labeling very personal attacks on him. But for me, that was quite telling. And even speaking in his own language in Chivenda, and that for me was quite a brutal attack on Malema.
It's interesting to see how this debate played out. So from the speech on Thursday night, and I hate to say it, Professor, but we've become so used to disruption after chaos, after too often physical violence in the National Assembly and in Parliament. This all went according to plan. You know, there were no disruptions. There are new rules in Parliament for speeches like this. But also, Julius Malema has said he will not disrupt. Dr. John Hlophe, the Parliamentary caucus leader of MK, has said they will not disrupt. He's leader of the opposition now as well. Does this mark the beginning of a new tone, a new trend, a completely new Parliament that won't have this disruption we saw all the time?
No, I don't think so. We've already seen the president being interjected by one member from MK. So from time to time, perhaps not like in the past, because I think by now, if I was a campaign leader of a party like the EFF, surely by now I should have learned that the strategy that the EFF have used in the past of being very confrontational, disruptive at Parliament does not work. And we've seen it on numerous occasions with the outcome of elections. Surely they need to devise new means. They need to work along a new political trajectory. And that political trajectory is to have robust engagements at Parliament, but definitely not disruptive. And perhaps that is a new era for the EFF, but the new kid on the block, perhaps they are now taking a leap out of EFF, and I don't know whether that is going to work for them, because for me, this is just but a public, exercise, public relations exercise where, speakers are being interjected, even if the rules allows that. It's not good for our parliament, even when this member indicated that it is new. But I think he already knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to drive the point home that I don't have respect for the man who's speaking there. And that it didn't work for the EFF. So I don't know whether it's going to work for MK if they are going to go along that trajectory where each time they want to interject speakers.
Professor Matebesi, in a way, from the moment that we voted, you could argue from the moment that, in fact, the election was gazetted, there's been a timetable, right? So there was a time we had to all vote. There was a time the results had to be tallied by and the results of the election declared. There was a time when the National Assembly, 2 weeks after that, had to meet and elect a president. There was a time by which, a formal timetable by which the opening of Parliament address had to happen. Now, all of that's over. The sort of speech today really is the end, if you like, the formal end of the election. There's no calendar anymore. And now it's actually up to the new government. And I wonder if the timetables maybe played a part in keeping everybody together. Now it's the real business of governing. There's no timetable. There's nothing left on the calendar that everyone has to behave by, you know. What do you think we're going to see in government now? It seems to me the real work starts, well, this afternoon.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the president's reply was also, spent considerable time on local governments and even during his address to the nation. But the question for me, it seems as if in the past we had rigid processes that needed to be followed. And what we need now is that we need flexible processes. If things doesn't work along the line, I mean, these parties only have 5 years to try and rescue what can be, still salvage from, from what is left of this country. And the question is, for me, 5 years, it's really a short time in politics, because you will need some time to do some consultations. And some ministers have already started doing that. But my question is, what will be done differently this time? I've seen a Gayton McKenzie coming out being more transparent. Is he going to continue along that trajectory? Will South Africans, and another buzzword that has come through, right through, has been advancing the interest of South Africans and not narrow party interest. Will that be, maintained right through up until the eve of the next local government elections? These are some of the issues that I strongly believe that will take center stage. And one can just hope that this time around, we do have leaders that really, genuinely, do have South Africans, interests at heart, and will ensure that they hold even their own party members accountable when they don't deliver. Something that we have not yet become accustomed to, where action is being taken against municipalities who can't even spend grants, like a ministry that can't even dispense money in this age of technology to students. I mean, that for me, it's some of the, what I would call the horrors of our kind of democracy that we celebrate in South Africa.
Professor, the president made the point that we are not hopeless, that South Africa is not a hopeless case. I think for almost everybody, the last 5 years have been really hard. Life is worse, I think. It's certainly more violent. I think we're poorer. Cost of living is higher. Food is more expensive. I could go on. The point I'm trying to get is, he says we're not hopeless. Do you think ordinary South Africans still have hope?
Yeah, no, well, look, with all the challenges that we face, if you've got an economy that is growing at the stage that we are, then surely you need to come up with effective plans. And that responsibility lies with our government, and also our private sector needs to come to the board. But I think what the voters wanted is that they want action, and perhaps that's why we are sitting with the kind of election outcomes that we have. But I strongly believe that perhaps this is the best that we could have come up with. And let us hope, as I've indicated, that we will start by laying the foundation. And to lay the foundation is to